In 2018, Williams finished 10th and last in the championship for the first time in their history after a full season. In 2019, they finished 10th again and scoring only 1 point, and then for the third straight year, they again finished 10th in 2020, and this time scored no points for the first time in their history after a full season. 2021 saw a big improvement with the team finishing in 8th, scoring 23 points and in the hands of George Russell, even finishing on the podium at the 2021 not really Belgium Grand Prix. However, now we get to 2022, and although we're only 2 races into the season, Williams have qualified last in both of the races, and visually it's pretty obvious that even with the struggles at Aston Martin and McLaren, although it is a new era with a new driver and new money, it looks to be the same old Williams fighting at the back. The brand new FW44 is unfortunately a bad car. It's really difficult to compare the issues that Williams has with the issues that both McLaren and Aston Martin are having, but whilst the team are also struggling with porpoising, from all of the analysis that I've read and from everything that my eyes are telling me when you watch the onboards, the car simply just doesn't have enough downforce. Alex Albon did indicate in both Bahrain and Jeddah that when the car and the tyres are in the right window, the car can be nicely balanced and have a decent turn of pace. And this was one of the reasons why late on in Jeddah, on the hard tyre, not only did Alex set his quickest lap quite late on, but he was also able to push and attack the Aston Martin of Lance Stroll. Unfortunately, when the car is out of the window, both drivers have found that the car is unpredictable and quite tricky to drive, which was evident with Latifi's 2 crashes in Jeddah. Ultimately, all of this comes back to downforce and tyres, because if you don't have enough downforce, then it's more difficult to get the tyres to work, and if you can't get the tyres to work and don't have efficient downforce, then the car is going to be unpredictable from corner to corner. There's also been a lot of talk about the power unit as well, and the fact that all of the Mercedes-powered teams, including Mercedes themselves, are not exactly having the best start to the season. Now, I'm going to hold off on blaming the Mercedes power unit for now, because there's actually a really good video by Dan, or Engine Mode 11 as most people know him on Twitter, who actually used to work in Formula 1 as a senior systems engineer at Red Bull, on the current state of the Mercedes-powered teams, and I would highly recommend checking that out. I'll have it linked at the very top of the description. He basically echoes in a lot more detail exactly how I feel, which is that even if the Mercedes power unit is holding some of these teams back, each of those teams, including Williams, also have their individual aero issues that they need to solve as well before we can just blame it all on Mercedes and call it a day. So whilst I'm not saying that the Mercedes power unit is not a factor, I just think that there is a lot more issues that need to be solved. Again, go check that video out and give Engine Mode 11's channel some love by subscribing, because he's an absolute legend. At the moment, it's a frustrating reality for Williams, but even though it is very early on into the season, and also right at the beginning of this brand new regulation period, it's still a disappointing start given that they were one of the biggest beneficiaries of the sliding scale wind tunnel time allowance, which gave the teams finishing lower down in the constructors more time in the wind tunnel and more time to develop their 2022 cars. However, it must be said that in 2021, Williams did hire a brand new technical director in Francois-Xavier de Maison. I probably butchered his name, but we move on. Luckily, in F1 he's known as FX, and even though he joined the team in March of 2021, the development of the FW44 was already well underway, so FX hasn't really had time to put his print on the design, and his real test will be in how he develops the car throughout 2022, and then more so in 2023, with the first car to be fully designed by him. Now, I think it's also worth looking at the money side of things as well. When Doralton Capital bought Williams in 2020, that was right on the eve of the cost cap, and even though the cost cap that came in 2021 will peg back some of the bigger teams, they have been ready financially and they've already invested loads of money ahead of time in preparation, and this is something that Williams just hasn't been able to do. I must hold my hand up, however, and say that I really did have higher expectations for Williams going into the season, but unfortunately, although it's good that they've brought in a new management and a new technical director, clearly they're not ready yet to take that next big step up. I also think that potentially their facilities might need upgrading as well, because even if you look at the other teams, Haas in 2021 expanded with closer ties to Ferrari, a new design office at Maranello, and more staff. Aston Martin, we know, have big plans for a brand new facility, and even Alfa Romeo, although I do think that they have been under-delivering for the last few years, their facility and specifically their wind tunnel is state-of-the-art. As far as the drivers, although I do think that the dynamic between Latifi and Albon will be very good, with both of them working well together to maximize the team's overall results, when it comes to the driver quality, to me Nicholas Latifi is now a limiting factor at the team who's holding them back, and in my opinion Williams needs to drop him and find a better driver. I've always had this thought experiment when it comes to pay drivers, or any drivers for that matter. If you drop them right now from their current team, whose lineup would they improve? So as an extreme example, if Red Bull dropped Max Verstappen, he would literally walk into the lineup of about 7 teams, barring maybe Mercedes and Ferrari. But if you dropped Nicholas Latifi, in my opinion, there is literally no lineup that he would improve. I personally don't rate him higher than Stroll, Tsunoda, or even Zhou, and so in my opinion, if you're not good enough to be in the lineup of a team that is racing at the back of the grid, then I don't think you're good enough to be in Formula 1, full stop. The two things that Latifi brings in is continuity and money. The continuity argument goes right out the window for me when a driver who has been out for a year is already beating you. And as far as the money that he brings in with Lavazza, Jos Capito is going to have to decide if that money is worth the offset of his performances. To me, if the team really wants to show that they're in a good place financially, look at what has happened with Haas and the switch from Mazepin to Magnussen. Sometimes good drivers can actually get more out of the car than what people actually think is possible. And on a brighter note, one positive for the team has been their new driver in Alex Albon. Going into this season, for anyone that's watched my channel for a while, or has even heard me on the Talking Points podcast that I do over on the Live Fast channel, I have not only been talking up Alex Albon ahead of 2022, but I have also put a lot of pressure on him personally, just through my own expectations for him to be the #1 driver at Williams. Make no mistake, this really would have been his last chance in Formula 1 if he didn't perform against Latifi, but so far he's completely lived up to my expectations, and I actually think he's probably the best thing about Williams at the moment. All the way from the very first week of testing, he has been comfortably quicker than Latifi, and I'm just shocked at how far ahead he is of Latifi so quickly. In his first qualifying session for the team in Bahrain, he was almost a second quicker than Latifi in Q1, and he got his car into Q2, and then he followed that up in Jeddah by out-qualifying Latifi again by over 1.3 seconds. Now, yes, that gap is exaggerated because Latifi crashed out in Q1 and wasn't able to set a quicker time, but that's not an excuse. That is a mistake that cost him and the team. What I like that I've seen from Alex is that, yes, he's not scored points and he hasn't done anything remarkable yet, but I talk a lot on this channel about small signs and glimpses from drivers in slower cars that they can have moments of magic even if the final result might not show it. I saw that with George last season, and I'm seeing that with Alex as well. In Bahrain, he was actually able to get into Q2 when the team was struggling, and then even in Jeddah when Lewis pitted late on after the VSC, Alex was actually running in the points, and even late on he was attacking Lance Stroll in the Aston Martin and at least trying to make something happen. Now, yes, the move on Lance didn't come off, but having watched it over and over, I actually think that it was just a racing incident, and I actually think that Alex was unfortunate to get the penalty, but either way, you can see that he's trying to make something work. He's trying to attack, and if I was his team boss, I'd say to him genuinely, forget the penalty, keep going and keep doing what you're doing. Alex Albon is a quality driver, and even after a year out, to be so far ahead of someone who's been at the team for 3 years is the perfect start for him. He's only going to get better and stronger, and I think he can really be the focal point of this team. We know how good that car can be when we see what Alex is able to do. Whilst if we had Latifi as our barometer, it would be very easy to give Williams a free pass to always be at the back. Alex still has a long way to go, and again, I am not saying that he is the second coming of Max Verstappen after finishing 13th and 14th, but at least he's pushing and giving the team some hope of points in 2022. It's certainly been a tough start to 2022 for Williams, but there's a lot of interesting questions that will need to be answered. Can they make progress with the current facilities and personnel? Is this driver lineup strong enough to compete further up the grid? And how will Jost Capito react? And what changes can he deliver going forward? Well, there you have it, another video wrapped up. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you did enjoy this video, then don't forget to subscribe to the channel. That would be greatly appreciated, and I'll see you in the next one.